For the second half of class today, we're going to go ahead and show you how to evaluate some logarithms. Now, in order to do this, I need you guys to take a look at a few of these properties. Now, we're going to get into a lot of properties about logarithms tomorrow or next time I see you. But these first couple really are kind of the two basic ones that we need for today. And the two are the logarithm of base b and the logarithm of 1. So again, if you look at the logarithmic form, exponential form, then you can see an example. You'll notice that the base and the value for a and the first one are the same. So the b and the b, that means they'll be the same number, all right, the same value. So if that happens, it's always going to be 1. Because if you look at the exponential form, if you want to raise that base b to some power to get the same number, then you need to have a power or an exponent of 1, all right? For the next one, the logarithm of 1, that's always going to be 0. So if you write it as exponential form, if you want to get 1, you must raise that base to a power of 0, because anything to the 0 power is 1. And finally, which we're going to do this from the rest of the unit for logarithms, then when you move to pre-calculus, this will happen again. Anytime you have a logarithm that does not have a base, so no number is written in the subscript, that's what we call a common logarithm. So it's going to be assumed that the base is 10. So from now on, if you have a base of 10, you do not need to write that in the base. All right, so let's give you a few examples about how you're going to use some of these things. So in this first one, it says the log of 100. Now the instructions are to evaluate the following logarithms. Now in order to evaluate the logarithms, you want to make sure you're always asking yourself, what is a logarithm? And a logarithm is just the exponent. So I'm looking for the exponent in both of these things. So at this point in my math career, I can do these mentally. But since you guys are just starting out, I'm going to recommend writing them in exponential form. All right, so the base of a, there's nothing there. You just learned that the base is 10. So 10, and again, if I do that swoop thing, which we talked about earlier, so 10, there's a 10 there, 10 to some power, right? I don't know what the exponent is equal to 100. All right, I think it'll be much easier to see that if I want to evaluate the log of 100, 10 to what power gives me 100? The power is 2. So the log of 100 is 2, and that's it. Okay, let's look at this one. Letter B. Now letter B says the log base 5 of 1/5. So again, I want to know what does this equal to, so I put a question mark. So 5 to some power gives me 1/5. So 5 to some power gives me 1/5. Now this one looks a little tricky. We know 5 to the first power is 1, 5 to the second power, or 5 squared is 25. So 5 to the first power is not 1, 5 to the first power is 5, obviously. 5 to the second power is 25, and 5 to the third power is 125. But notice those are getting bigger, but this is 1/5, so smaller than 5. All right, so the way to do this is usually when you have a decimal or a fraction, all right, in your answer, it's going to be a negative number. So I ask myself, 5 to what power gives me 5? Well, that's 1. 5 to the first power is 5, but because it's in the denominator, I need to make it a negative. All right, so you get the hang of this once you guys start to see how this works. But again, when you're evaluating, go ahead and write them in exponential form with those question marks. Because again, if you're finding a logarithm, you're finding the exponent. All right, so I'm going to let you guys try these 4. All right, so see if you can evaluate these at your boards.